Okay, okay. Yes, good afternoon. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Audible,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Switch off
Yes,
your
sir. Yes,
audio
sir. Yes,
so
sir.
that actually it should not get disturbed.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
if
sir.
you have any questions, you can actually ask me at the end. And if I'm audible, I can actually proceed further. Anyway,
Okay, sir.
good afternoon and welcome to this particular session. I think I was told this is last session of the short-term actually course, ICT Ethical and Legal Dimensions. I will be talking only about legal and ethical issues of information communication technology. You know, the information technology is galloping. It is not just actually running, it is galloping. And it is said that actually every 18 months, the technology doubles. Every 18 months, the technology doubles. No, it is actually doubling so fast. I'm sure I'll tell you a day will come where, you know, we will not be able to keep pace actually with the technology, right? So be that as it may, let me just actually come back to the thing. What is information? See, from the point of law, if you really want to discuss actually about information technology, we need to have actually a specific definitions of all these things, right? What is information? From the point of law, from the point of ethics, let me just actually try to tell you what is information. The word information literally means to give form to or shape to one's thoughts. It's a wonderful actually definition. I liked it because we have plenty of thoughts. If the thoughts remain a thought, it is absolutely a kind of an imagination. It doesn't have an existence at all. When the thought actually comes out in the form of a speech or a written statement, then immediately it becomes actually information. This information can be of many types, be that as may, that we'll discuss later. So when the thought comes out of your mind, because in law, intention or thought actually doesn't have any legal consequences at all. Only when the thought actually comes out in the form of actually information, then either we call it actually an information or intention, be that as it may. And thought to find expression in information. All your thoughts. So for example, you think and keep quiet. I'll tell you there is nothing. You think and just write what you think. It becomes information. It could be poetry, it could be prose, it could be anything. I'll tell you. The thought has to externally get manifested. Thought has to externally get manifested. Then we call it actually information. From the point of law, we call it just information. And see, just like your thoughts, even information also has some kind of emotions in it. So for example, if you think actually a very pleasant thing, you feel actually so happy, so light, and you really like it. If you simply in fact think of something which you don't like, which has irritated you so much in the past, the very idea actually will make you very sad. Look, just like actually information, even thoughts also are emotional actually things, and they are attached actually with information. But there are two things you must actually understand this information. That is, the mathematicians actually they focus on the syntax, the structure of the information. Whereas actually the meaning and other things actually left for other things called semantics. So syntax and semantics are the two parts actually of any information. Syntax actually is the structure, the physical structure in which actually it appears, that is syntax. And the meaning and emotions attached to it actually is called semantics. So we human beings, we can understand both. We can actually create both. We can manipulate both. But machines cannot do that. Machines can only concentrate on syntax, not semantics. I think most of you must be knowing it. So anyway, I'm just repeating it. So syntax and semantics. And the technology cannot simply bridge these two together. But the technology is now actually is exploding. Your artificial intelligence has come. The OpenAI actually has, AI has introduced ChatGPT. ChatGPT 4 is just actually come out, and 5 actually will be coming in another 7-8 actually months. A day will come, I'll tell you, I think the man actually will lose his control over his own creation, right? Be that I'll come to that point later, right? Let me just. So what exactly this IT? I just told you about actually the information. And the information actually, which has the structure as well as emotions, which only human being as of now can actually manipulate, use it. Whereas machines that we use, your computers and we are various such other kind of machines, They only talk about syntax. There is no semantics in that. So what is this ICT, information communication technology? See, I'll tell you, these telecommunications, that is telephone lines, both wireless and signals, both the telephone lines and wireless signals put together, what we call actually telecommunications and computers, right? So the instrument actually which receives, which transmits, that one, and all other actually what is actually called software, middleware, storage, and audiovisual. All of them actually put together, we call it actually information communication technology. It's a complex thing, right? So there are several actually things are involved in it, right? Besides actually your thought, which has found actually expression in the form of information. And this is actually one part of it. The other part actually is that information which has come, which has actually been stored and which can be transmitted. It can be manipulated. It can be, selectively, in fact, actually erased, or selectively it can be sent. Everything can be. The whole process actually we call it information communication technology. So all of you, in fact, actually are involved in knowing what exactly this entire structure is all about, right? And it also covers all that actually products which store the information, like your actually computer hardware, and retrieve information, the information that has actually been stored. Anytime, fraction of a second, you can retrieve it, and you can transmit actually to any part of the universe, I'm sorry, the globe or the world, and receive actually the information actually from those people electronically or in any digital form. Means the greatest advantage of this is the information once actually that is stored, it can be multiplied simultaneously, indefinitely, and infinitely. There is no that only 10 copies you can make, 20 copies you can make. You can actually make infinite number of copies. You can manipulate it, you can change it, and you can do everything. That is what exactly this ICT actually does it. This is where the problem comes. This is where actually the legal issues actually come into picture. So that is why we have actually two very important laws on information. One is Right to Information Act, which came into existence in 2005. The other one actually is Information Technology Act. This Information Technology Act actually concerned more about actually technicalities actually of information. You receive, you retrieve, you send. Technicalities actually are involved actually in this Information Technology Act. Whereas Right to Information actually not much technology is involved. What is involved here is just this. The information that is actually collected from the people, public at large, which is stored actually in the government departments. So that information actually is an information anybody can actually have access to. Say, for example, we are all living in democracy. I'm sure most of you agree with me. We are all living actually democracy. In a democratic setup, I'll tell you, the administration actually is an authority which is chosen by the people, by themselves. So unlike actually in other systems where there is no democracy, the ruler or the leader actually need not be the one who has been actually chosen by the people, right? He could be a military dictator, or he could be an autocrat, or he could be a religious leader who takes control or the power of a particular state and he administers it. But out of 220 countries, nearly 100 countries actually are democracies where the leader or the administration actually of the country is not actually in the hands of one person, and this administration actually is the administration chosen by the people. If you choose a particular actual administration, that administration will be there. If you don't want, you can remove it, right? This is the modern actually democracy, the best form of actually governance one can actually think of, because we don't have any other much better alternative. Right to information, what does it say is, since I'm a part of the governance as an ordinary citizen, I must also have a right to collect information actually from the department to know how I am being actually governed. I hope actually you are following me, right? Are you? Hello? Please raise your hand actually, let me know, because I should not be speaking to. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is what exactly it says. As a part actually of the governance in a democratic setup, every citizen actually has the information, right, to seek any information actually from the government. Any kind of an information you have the right. But earlier actually the government was not sharing this information, because They wanted, in fact, hide many other things which they never wanted actually to give it to the public, because public actually will have a bad opinion of the government. We made this law in 2005, and according to this particular law, there are 16 kinds of information that could be available actually in any other government department. In any other, say, government of India has about actually nearly 100 departments. And government of Karnataka also, government of Karnataka has about 100 departments. Government of India actually has got more than actually 150 departments. In all these departments, I'll tell you, plenty of information actually they have collected. It is being actually stored. And this information is nothing but about the people, for the people, from the people. So the people actually who are responsible actually for the governance have the right to seek this information. So right to information simply says any person, any citizen of this country, by paying actually 10 rupees, if he's an APL card holder, or who is not a BPL card holder, or a person who actually holds a BPL card, he can actually seek this information by paying 10 rupees, who is not a BPL card holder. If he's a BPL card holder, I'll tell you, he doesn't have to pay anything. He has to simply apply seek information. Up to 100 pages of information, he can actually get it free of cost, and above 100 pages, per page he has to pay some amount of time. This is what exactly the right to information says. There are plenty of actually rules and regulations. Let me not actually talk about that. Coming to information technology, I'll tell you, this is a very, very important law. But I would say this law actually is becoming, outdated. See, now we have actually plenty of information technology related offenses. We call it actually cyber crimes. They are so sophisticated, I'll tell you, where ordinary laws that are there in this country, I'll tell you, cannot be made applicable at all. Say, for example, someone sends actually a message or calls and actually tries to seek actually information as if he's a banker or somebody, and tries to take actually some information from you, and he enters into your account and draws the whole money without your knowledge. So I can actually quote any number of actually cyber crimes here. In order to prevent that, we needed to have actually Information Technology Act. But I'll tell you, it was actually made 22 years ago, 23 years ago. And some of the changes we still actually feel this act actually is not. So here information includes, here altogether, right to information, we have a different set of actual information. In information technology, we have a different set of actual information. Here information means a text, the message that you send to somebody now, using any other apps, that is also information. Images that you send, the photos, etc., that is also so. So, for example, the sound that you send, that is also information. Voice you send, that is also a code, a computer program, software, databases, or a microfilm, computer-generated microfiche. All of them, anything actually which is connected actually with this, which is digital in its form, is information. So legally, we try to, in fact, actually put a boundary around actually this particular meaning and say this is information, because legally we have to control it. Look at actually, we'll see the dimensions of this particular information. So as the data gathering becomes more automated, ever present, and one must ask who is in control of collecting this data and what is done with it once it has been collected and stored. I'll tell you, so much of information about your own self you have already shared. For example, if you are an Aadhaar card holder, all your actually, the privacy of your iris, your fingerprints, your blood group, your date of birth, you already given it to them. They are already storing it, right? Not only that, I'll tell you, if you go to your hospital, I'll tell you, when you got your entire body thoroughly checked, I'll tell you, in entire your blood group to all the efficiency of each and every organ of your body is collected in the form of data, and it is in that particular hospital. I'll tell you, there is no person actually who doesn't go to a hospital these days. And if he goes to the hospital, I'll tell you, every information collected, I'll tell you, is stored actually in that particular hospital data bank. So therefore, literally, your external, internal, including your actually bodily feeling and bodily data is already with somebody. It could be used, it could be misused. Say, for example, I'll give you, you belong to a very, very rare group of actually blood. You have gone to the hospital, got your actually blood checked, and the doctor say you are that actually group blood, and there are hardly a dozen people actually in the world. Imagine, I'll tell you, your data that you are one of those actually rarest group of actually blood group person. If someone actually wants actually your blood, he can easily trace you. He can easily approach you. He can actually easily request you. And if he really badly wants it, he can force you to give. If you refuse to give, he can actually extract it from you. Right? Look how actually your information, private information, which is actually in the reachable actually field of everyone. This is the most dangerous actually thing, and that is why who holds this information, who controls this information? No, you're all actually, you all regularly use this actually WhatsApp messages, and they always actually assure you that actually these WhatsApp messages are end-to-end encrypted. Means from sender to the receiver, this information actually will not be shared with anybody. The sender, when he sends it, it reaches only the receiver. This is end-to-end actually, encryption, they say. You should not believe it, because end-to-end actually encryption, it is not possible, because any information you send, it has to go to some kind of actually a server. From server, I'll tell you, it has to be sent to the person, the recipient. Means there will be at least one or two intermediaries who actually come in between your communication with other person. When you communicate actually with other person, at least two, three agencies come in between, and through them only you have to pass on the information. Only thing is, what they assure is, we don't actually intercept your information, they say. If they mind, I'll tell you, they could. No, recently, Government of India actually passed one administrative actually regulation they passed, saying that, say for example, your ordinary telephone lines, whether wireless or with wire, what we actually use, your mobile phone and all that, they could be in fact actually intercepted, tracked, and they can actually know what exactly you have been communicating. But it was not so with regard to your voice calls actually in the apps through internet, because internet actually is something not controlled actually exclusively by the state. They are different things. So that is why most of the people, where they wanted to keep their actually information absolutely confidential, they were actually using these WhatsApp calls, video calls, audio calls actually through apps. So therefore, actually, where the agencies will not, the Indian agencies will not interfere and collect it. So what is the latest regulation? The latest regulation says, it is simply Government of India says, whenever actually want the information or communication of a particular individual with whom actually talks, with whom actually shares, if the state actually requires, you are under authority, you are under actually obligation to provide it. So therefore now, all these voice calls actually through internet, right, also have been actually brought under the state control. Therefore, whatever literally you speak, you send, you receive through any form, I'll tell you, if the government minds, it can actually intercept and get to know it. So therefore, there should not be any kind of idea, conception that my information actually absolutely mine. No, absolutely not. So if the control of this actually huge wealth of information is in the hands of the government, there will be regulations. You can't actually manipulate it, because it is controlled by regulation. If it is actually in the private hands, they can do it. I read, most of you must have read it. So our Aadhaar actually information up to actually 50 crores or 70 crores of information actually has been compromised, sold to some private authorities. Look, it's deadly. See, about 50 crore people, they're absolute actually private things which you gave to the other agencies. There, somebody in fact actually sold it to some private individual. That is the reason why you get actually so many marketing calls and all that annoying calls. Why they can? You might wonder, who gave this? Who gave actually my number to these people? They buy this number, I'll tell you. They buy this number actually. There are sellers who collect actually information from you. This is where exactly legal control actually is required. And third parties also can store it. If one party has the exclusive production of the information, access or control of some natural resource, then that prohibits others from using the resource without the consent of the exclusive owner. Say, for example, if you in fact actually invent something, a kind of a software, a collecting information, etc., etc., So that information cannot actually be given to other unless and until actually this receives some kind of a consideration. Means if I collect actually the data actually of 1,000 people in Karnataka, so I can sell it and there are plenty of actually buyers to in fact actually buy it. So therefore it is, I'll tell you, the most actually commercially viable and most demanding property, if at all, if it is there today, it is actually the information of actually people, private information of the people. This is the most actually say valuable actually asset, I could say, or commodity you can buy and sell it. And unlike actually physical object, theoretically, any physical object, I'll tell you, you can all possess same digital object as it can be copied. Say for example, if you send a letter actually to somebody, if it's a physical object, means you can make 10 copies, 20 copies, etc., etc. And after a certain time, I'll tell you, you may not be able to make copies because the copies actually become dilated. But a digital copy, infinitely you can actually multiply it, infinitely. You can actually send it to all the people any number of times actually without loss of fidelity. Not even an iota of actually loss of actually what the information will be there, nor actually the information actually gets obsolete. Exactly 100% facility. You can replicate it actually infinitely, I'll tell you, without any kind of. This is the biggest actual problem. This is the biggest problem. So information technology is all pervasive, I'll tell you. And in the lives of people, I'll tell you, across the globe, I'll tell you, we can't simply live, I'll tell you, without information technology today. I'll tell you, our life totally depends. So, for example, government of Karnataka gives actually its many of its benefits to ordinary citizens through its actually through mobile numbers. If a citizen doesn't have a mobile number or mobile, or it doesn't actually possess one, to that extent, I'll tell you, he's not eligible actually for that benefit. Means if you don't have a mobile or a phone connection, I'll tell you, you are unfit to be a citizen of this country because you are no use to the government. So we have reached a stage, I'll tell you, without a mobile number, without Aadhaar number, you are not in existence at all. You are in existence because you have an Aadhaar number. You are in existence because actually you have been given one actually number, and you can be contacted actually only in that number. You are nothing but actually for the government is a number. That number actually is telephone number. So your name, your designation, all that nonsense is absolutely immaterial because you are just a number, right? So it is all pervasive. And moving further, I'll tell you how actually slightly, in fact, actually go back in time. Now, this is all I'll tell you in the last actually 70, 80 years, I'll tell you this information technology revolution is taking place. And you must actually understand now the information technology, especially after this open AI, Sam Altman, when he actually started that particular company, open AI means, artificial intelligence actually is open to everybody till recently. So information technology actually was growing actually in a faster pace. But once the artificial intelligence came, it is not just growing gradually, it is galloping, right? Once in 18 months, I'll tell you, the technology doubles. Once in 18 months. So, for example, you are at stage 2. Exactly after 18 months, you will be in stage 4. And exactly after 18 months, you will be stage 8. From 8 to 16. From 16 to 32. I'll tell you, it will multiply, double the size, exactly in actually 18 months. So, this is the biggest actually problem. So, earlier, what was the thing? I'll tell you, oral tradition. See, in India, actually, India is very famous actually for this oral tradition. Our ancient actually texts, Vedas, Upanishads, etc., etc. They came down to us actually from 3,000 to 4,000 years, from 4,000, 5,000 years through oral tradition, without even a loss actually of the minutest part of the text. Imagine, I'll tell you, for 3,000 years, orally you transmit some of the sacred text, I'll tell you, without, I'll tell you, any compromise or dilation actually of the text or the matter. Even the smallest part also is not dented. So that is the kind of oral tradition we had. So look here, oral tradition or oral lore is form of communication wherein knowledge, art, ideas, cultural material is received, preserved, and transmitted orally from one generation to another generation. From one generation, so these days I'll tell you, we write, we digitalize it in pictures, in various forms. Actually, we try to transmit our knowledge. But those days, I'll tell you, everything actually had to be orally transmitted. We did not actually have any kind of a thing. Ancient Indians developed a techniques actually of listening, memorization, and recitation of their knowledge in schools. What then it was called gurukulas, right? They taught actually to listen, because listening is a greatest art. Because I'm a teacher like you. I've been teaching actually for the past actually nearly 50 years. You know, the moment you enter the class and start actually delivering a lecture, you as a teacher immediately come to know that how many of your students are listening to you and how many of them actually are not listening to you. This is your special gift, because you are a teacher, you know it. By looking at their face, you'll be able to say, yes, this man is listening and this girl actually is not listening. Because you are a teacher, you know it. So listening actually is a great art. And many of us actually do not know the art of listening. And I would say, I'll tell you, the art of listening actually is a greater art than the art of actually speaking. The art of speaking, I'll tell you, come prepared to deliver a talk. You come and deliver and go. But listening actually is a wonderful actually art. You require actually plenty of actually nuances to understand actually the art, right? So therefore, we taught them to listen, memorize, and recite, and not only that, that knowledge actually has to be, in fact, with an exceptional accuracy across the generation. So you'll have to listen, preserve, understand, and transmit to the next generation with a high degree of accuracy without actually compromising any of these things. This is something, I'll tell you, a singular actually contribution of Indian oral tradition to the world at large. Moving further, many forms of recitation. That is why reciting actually a shloka or a lore or whatever it is, I'll tell you, there's a pattern. And there are various forms actually of recitation. And they are designed actually to aid accuracy, because all those actually forms actually are designed to maintain accuracy. Okay. And not only that, I'll tell you, also to transmit actually to the next generation. Many forms of recitation are password designed to aid accuracy in recitation and transmission of Vedas and other knowledge texts from one generation to another generation. So that is a look here. All the hymns have actually in each Veda, there are 4 Vedas, all the hymns of them, right? For example, take actually you Rig Veda. There are 1028 hymns there with 10,600 actually verses. And today, which originated 4,000 years ago, today we have exactly as it was created 4,000 years ago. And nearly, I'll tell you, for nearly 3,000, I'll tell you, it got transmitted orally. Not actually writing form. In the last actually 1,000 years, actually, we have been writing it, right? Right. So each text was recited in a number of ways, different ways, and to ensure that different methods such as recitation acted as a cross check on the other, to check whether actually the text actually has been, being recited properly or not. That is one thing. And what are actually are the methods of recitation? This is for your actually kind information. Please actually try to know it. So there are various ways. One is actually called Samhita Pada, right? This was actually an earlier tradition, how information actually was shared. And according to this one, continuous recitation of Sanskrit words bound by the phonetic rules. So these eupheminic actually combination means, you will have to repeat it actually phonetically with the sound, keeping the sound actually in mind. And you do not actually, whether it is pleasant or not, that also was actually later. So the Samhita Pata is simply keep repeating it, right? Many a times you see actually many of the people reciting actually the hymns or the shlokas, continuously do it. They do it actually so that at a certain time, I'll tell you, that actually becomes by heart and you will be able to recite it. So that is how actually preserve it. There's one more method actually, Pada Pada. So this recitation actually is marked by conscious pause after each word. In order to maintain actually its fidelity, accuracy, when you will recite a particular actually word, then you give a pause of a particular actually time frame. Then you start again. So this continuous pass actually it acts almost like a full stop, comma, or hyphen, or colon, something like that. This pass. And this method suppresses euphonic actually combination, restores each words in its original intent form. So when you add actually a tone or a tune to a particular actually sloka, most of the people actually will be attracted actually by the tune, and they forget actually the beauty of actually the sloka. Therefore, you have to avoid being actually attracted only to the tune. So you have to concentrate actually on the intended form. This pata actually is used. Similarly, there is kramapata, means step by step you must actually recite it. And there is a kramapata modified. Here is also a kramapata, step by step you do it with certain changes in between. And there is jatapata, dvajapata, gadapata, like that. There are various methods actually in oral traditions where recitation of a text and its oral transmission developed actually 5th century BC, and that is after the start of Buddhism and Jainism. These methods actually underwent actually some kind of a change with the technicality, but many people actually did not actually appreciate because it is very difficult. Say Panini's actually grammar is such a high standard grammar, hardly there are any people actually who will be able to appreciate it, right? Be that as that is one thing. Now coming to the modern actually kind, moral challenges actually of information technology. This is the move from actually one set of domination information technology to another is always morally contentious. See, for example, earlier actually you see in the last actually 20-25 years, your storage actually the instrument actually has undergone change. Earlier, we used to have actually big gramophone, actually, plates, big plates, where one actually song we could actually store it. And each time you want to play, you'll have to add a new needle to it and use it. Look at actually, that was actually 50 years ago, 60 years ago, or 70 years ago. Today, in your actually mobile phone, you can store actually 10,000 songs without actually compromising, I'll tell you, their accuracy, and without actually compromising actually space in your phone also. So that is the extent, I'll tell you, to which our technology has developed. And when the technology develops in that fast pace, our legal system also should actually keep pace with that. If you fail to, in fact, actually legal principles actually are not created to regulate that one, the society actually will be in huge danger. See, Socrates actually, words actually must remember. It's a wonderful actually idea here. Look what actually Socrates said. Socrates living actually during this long transition from largely oral tradition to written tradition. This man actually lived in that particular period where oral tradition actually was diminishing and the written tradition was coming up. All the oral traditions actually, all the people actually who remembered for 20 years and kept it actually for another 40 years and transferred the whole thing to the next generation, they died. So there were no books, there were actually human minds. They were actually carrying this transmission. So when we developed actually scripts, then all this actually information actually got translated actually into written books. At that particular point of time, Socrates actually was in his prime age, and he says, I'll tell you, this is something actually terribly bad. And his student Plato ignored his master's actually advice, and he wrote down actually his dialogue called Phaedrus, right? The Plato's dialogues, which are even today we actually study and actually quote, he wrote it down. But his boss, right, his teacher, Socrates, nothing doing, there is no writing, everything orally go. One of the statements of Socrates actually really, in fact, appealing to me. I'm sure you will also appreciate. You know what he said? Socrates actually was skeptical about actually Phaedrus, the book actually that was written by his student Plato. Socrates said, if men learn this of writing, it will implant forgetfulness in their actually souls. How important it is. Today when you teach, most of your students actually will be taking down notes, thinking that they can read it later. You think actually they will ever read it again? I don't think so, right? They write it, they write it, borrow the library book, write down, take the notes, and they think that actually we can read something. Or even previous day to the examination, we can read. So when we cultivate this kind of a thing, He doesn't receive the information actually in his mind and store it. He receives it, only stores actually in the book. That is why I said if men learn this technique of writing, it will implant forgetfulness in their actually souls. They will cease to exercise their memory. I'll tell you today, most of us actually, our memory actually is becoming bad because we believe actually, because if I ask you what is actually your husband's phone number or wife's phone number, you certainly do not know. You have stored it actually as husband or wife, and immediately you click actually or type wife, your wife's phone number comes or your husband's phone number comes. You don't remember the number at all. So what happens is once actually you start writing, your memory becomes actually very weak because they rely on that which is written, calling to remembrance no longer from within themselves. They think that actually anytime I can actually recall. No, no, no. But by means of external marks, when you want to in fact remember something, so with the assistance of the external actually markers, that is going to be the thing. So that is what actually now as a teacher, even I feel, plenty of actually writing and storing, I'll tell you, will reduce your actually memory thing. So when the phone number, memory of your phone increases, to that extent, I'll tell you, lose your memory because everything you store, you don't remember. Even now, I find actually there are some people who will remember actually 100, 150, 200 phone numbers. That's a rare kind of actually people. Hardly you find actually, but there are very few people. But these days, many, if you ask me, I'll tell you, except my own phone number, I don't remember any other first number. I only know my phone number because I have to remember it, because whenever someone asks me, what is your phone number? I can't take out my mobile and actually recite it. So therefore, I'll remember my phone number. This is exactly the challenge that you're facing it. And for Socrates, I'll tell you something immoral, false about writing. He said, writing is something immoral. Look at the kind of actually words he's using. It's immoral. Books can provide information, but they cannot provide actually wisdom. What a wonderful thing. Books can actually give you information. But wisdom comes only when you understand, digest, and analyze that actual information. Wisdom actually comes forth. That is why he says, in oral tradition, you do not simply consult a library. In oral tradition, you don't consult a library, but you are the library. You are the library. Right? When this information actually is in you are the library. For Socrates, reading a book is nowhere near as insightful as talking with an author. Right? When you talk to an author is something different from writing what the author has written. Be that admit, this is it. Now, information technology. What is the characteristics? So the worry is the information technology would challenge privacy, accuracy, property, and accessibility. These are the things, right? Privacy means all your actual information about your own self. You should not be actually in the hand. Say, for example, someone actually needs a liver, is badly in need of it, and he wants actually a donor. Donor is not coming forth. Someone comes to know that actually your blood group and that person's blood group actually is the same, and your kidney will certainly actually match him. So he doesn't mind actually using some illegal means actually to kill and actually take away the liver. Earlier, it wasn't actually possible because you can buy this information anywhere. I'll tell you, go to a hospital, hack into hospital records. I'll tell you, you can find hundreds of people actually who have similar actually what blood group and matching actually kidneys or liver or whatever it is. So your privacy is compromised. You are in deep danger, right? And because by the time law is, and moreover, I'll tell you, our actually controlling it actually so difficult because there's a new latest technology. To regulate the technology, I make a law, discussing actually with the experts and making it a law in the parliament. When after actually lapse of 6 months, when a new law comes, the technology will have changed to a higher actually dimension. So all our laws, I'll tell you, are behind all these actually what technologies, because we can't simply, law cannot simply keep pace actually with the developments. That is one thing. And problem is all information technology not only record, store, transmit, organize, and synthesize information, sometimes manipulate it. What happens? The information that actually have given, sometimes it could be manipulated. Right? They can actually alter as they wish and altogether create a new information. The information power is controlling information provides unhindered power. Whoever controls information, I'll tell you, is powerful. I'll tell you, look, when Jio launched actually its services, Airtel actually was dominating it. And and immediately it started actually giving freebies, etc., etc., etc. And it started actually doing targeted advertisements. What is targeted advertisement? Say, for example, the artificial intelligence, knows that what you like, what kind of shows you like, what kind of movies you like, what kind of food you like, what are your hobbies, everything actually in one or the other, you'll have actually expressed all these things stored, and your entire actually data is available to somebody. Targeted advertisement is that they'll give you only what you want, nothing else. Right? And as a consequence of it, you become so close with them, then you are hooked to them. That's it. The information economy, such as we find ourselves today, it may be ultimate from the political power. I'll tell you, political power is not the big power at all today. If at all, if there is any power, I'll tell you, it is actually information economy, right? So see, I'll tell you, many of the technologies that were actually used for the purpose of manipulating the elections. If you are actually a user of a social app continuously for the past actually couple of years, actually have used any kind of actually these apps, messaging actually the apps, within 1 year I'll be able to know which party you like, which party you do not like, and what is your actually preference, what food you like, what you don't like. I'll tell you, your entire actually psychological factors actually are with me, with the computer. I know what you are. And much before the elections, I'll tell you, these apps, these artificial intelligence actually will be able to tell you which party actually is going to win the election and with what majority. Because actually they know it, what exactly you have in your mind. And you would certainly, in fact, actually exercise your mind actually in the polling booth. And that is going to be the exact actual result of it, right? So therefore, political power actually depends on information power. That's it. And especially religious organizations, universities, libraries, healthcare officials, government agencies, banks, corporations have access. All these things, universities, libraries, healthcare officials, government agencies, banks, they collect all. You go and actually open an account in the bank. They seek all the information, all nonsense. You are just opening an account. You go to a hospital, I'll tell you, they not only, in fact, actually take the external actually indicators, but also your blood group and all that nonsense. They take it. Literally, they take everything. That information actually could be sold, exchanged, and actually bartered with any other person, right? And today, growing number of people enter biometric. Today you go and biometric. You press actually your thumb, only the lock opens, right? So anybody can actually steal your biometric. One fine day, someone actually chops off your thumb. He can go with your thumb and actually open the lock and take anything he likes. Right? This is it. And most dangerous thing is all this information actually is not in a particular computer in a particular area. It is in the cloud. It is actually in the digital world. If you have the access code from any corner of the world, I'll tell you, you can access this information. So information that you store so closely can be accessed actually by any person anywhere in the planet. I'll tell you, if he knows actually the password or the access code. So this is the dangerous. Law will not be able to help it. What are the challenges? Look, these are the challenges. What we once considered private information, such as birth date, family photo, is now available to the entire world via internet. I'll tell you, these days, I'll tell you, updating your actually DP, your status has become such a craze, I'll tell you, it is leading to plenty of deep fake you're coming across. These days, few days ago, some of the Hollywood stars actually photos were taken and it was actually misused. We need actually a couple of your photographs and your voice sample actually of a couple of minutes. If the experts have these two things, they can manipulate and actually use that information and picture on any of the body and create it a facade, and they make it actually as if you are doing it, and exactly in your voice and exactly in your appearance. This is called deep fake. Not only Indian law, even American law actually is lacking behind. is lagging behind. It is not in a position to, in fact, actually counter deepfakes. Look here, actually, what happens. I'll give you one very interesting case that actually happened in Karnataka a few months ago. It was actually told by one of the senior actually IPS officers. He said, one of the families actually somewhere in Malnad, let me not actually tell you which place is it. That wife actually is a very, very, modern kind of a girl actually with social issues, very active in social media. Once they wanted to go to Goa and have actually 1 week stay actually in Goa for a vacation. So this woman actually took out a photograph. We are going to Goa for a week and 1 week long holiday. She took the selfie and actually the home and posted it actually on her Facebook. So some of actually the thieves, they were just watching it. We are on the way to Goa. We are actually in this thing. Every 1 hour, 2 hours, actually, she would take a photograph and upload it. And these people actually were following it. And we are coming back home after 1 week. They gave the information. So these thieves came home, stayed in the home, cooked food, ate, and collected all valuables. That wonderful lady, after finishing actually her trip in Goa, we are going back home. She actually took one photograph. We are on the way home. We are near the home. She said, when they came home, there was nothing in the home because just a couple of hours ago, this man actually made a neat pack of all valuable things, walked out actually wonderfully. She herself actually gave all hints and running commentary she was giving. Many of us do not know. Immediately take one photograph, upload it. It could be misused by many people. We have plenty of actually cases, I'll tell you. They remove your face, actually put into another actually nude body and make it appear that is your body. And they try to blackmail you, right? This is what happens. Look here, I'll give you some data, you'll be shocked. The amount of information per minute, how much information we share. Per minute, it is estimated that over 6,600 photos will be uploaded to Flickr. Per minute, 60 seconds, I'll tell you, 6,600 photos are uploaded. Look at the craze. How actually we are crazy about uploading our own photographs. And Google serves more than actually 6,94,445 queries. In 1 minute, actually, so many questions come and Google answers nearly 7 lakh actually answers per minute. And nextly, over 1,500 new ads will be created in Craigslist. Ads. 1,200 actually advertisements actually in 1 minute. And nearly 77 lakh status updates. This is slightly 2-year-old information, I'll tell you. So 7 lakh status updates actually per minute. Imagine actually in 24 hours, right? And 79,364 wall posts. 5,10,000 actually 40 comments are published on the social networking Facebook. And there are, a couple of years ago, 1,500 million on Facebook. Imagine, I'll tell you, the Facebook now actually, it is being actually taken over by a different actually thing. They call it actually Meta. Imagine the kind of actually information he possesses. 1,500 actually million people, their information actually is. He is actually the most powerful person actually on the face of the planet today. And going further, these are the critical stages, right? Where personal privacy actually is compromised. Access right actually is granted. So for example, most of you in fact actually send and receive money through several actually online. You would actually use apps and online transactions you do it, right? This access right, I'll tell you, only you should know it. And if at all by mistake, if you share it, I'll tell you entire actually your deposits, your earned money actually will. Harmful actions. Sometimes actually when they cannot access, they leak actually some virus into it and they make it actually non-workable. Patents. You earn something by inventing it. Someone actually steals it and it becomes his pet. Copyright also. When we have actually got copyright over certain things, I'll tell you that has to be preserved. Trade secrets. So you do a kind of a trade with a special secret. That is why you are successful. This is something actually I was just watching this morning actually a documentary where a person actually was suspected actually by FBI America Because this man was making huge money actually in share transactions actually in stock market. Now he would buy and sell actually, and huge money. This man actually had made millions and billions of dollars. The enforcement directorate, I'll tell you, revenue enforcement, they got suspect because this man invests in all his investments, actually get plenty of money. He was arrested, they investigated. You're doing some kind of actually illegal thing. What is that you tell? You know what this man said? Now I know it, I'll tell you, which shares actually will go up, which share actually will come down. I know it because I'm a time traveler, he says. No, you don't believe in it. I'm a time traveler. Time traveler means I do not belong to, in fact, 21st century. I am actually from 2nd century, 3rd century. I've traveled in now. I know it actually, entire thing. I also have gone to future and come back. That is why I buy only those stocks which are going to increase their value in actually in a day or two. And next day morning, I sell it and make a huge profit. Still, FBI not been able to solve this problem. But this man actually is doing this business. And there is absolutely no answer, a credible answer, an answer which actually satisfies your actually senses. Concept. And trade secrets, liability, and privacy. These are the critical areas, I'll tell you. Your information technology actually creates this actually kind of problem. So what are these actual rights issues, human rights issues? These are the issues actually which create a lot of problem. Many democracies consider privacy as a backward. In India also, Putsami was a state of India. There was a case actually 5 years ago. He was himself actually was a judge. He actually filed a case before the court of law, make actually privacy as a fundamental right. So now privacy is a fundamental right. Means it's a right, your state cannot actually violate it. So your privacy, your most, private information of yours actually is an exclusive actually prerogative. Nobody can actually come and take it, nor anybody has the right to, in fact, actually compromise with it. That is one thing. Privacy is fundamental right now, as I already mentioned, and it has to be protected actually at all costs. However, the US Constitution actually doesn't say it is a basic right, but it respects privacy. It respects privacy. And scholar, I'll tell you, simply trace and say what exactly is actually privacy rights. Privacy right is nothing but a right to be left alone. Now, I want to do something, don't interfere with me. I want to speak something, I want to say something, I want to write something. Please don't interfere with me. You please actually let me be what I am. So this is privacy. This is a wonderful thing, I'll tell you. The state or anybody should not actually interfere. After your class hours, what you do is none of the business of your state. You are a government employee, no doubt. But are you a government employee 24 hours? Not 24/7, you are not a government employee. So when actually you are asked to perform a public duty between 10 and 5, you do it. After 5, you are a private person. Government cannot say, where did you go? What did you do? You share me what actually you have done. No. I'll tell you. It is exactly what is actually called privacy. This is so these days, these things are actually happening, right? This facial recognition technology actually has advanced so much. Nobody can beat China. China has already got actually a list of all those actually criminals of the country. The data bank. We have not been able to collect it. So the entire actually China has got actually crores and crores of people actually are absolute outright criminals, right? And automatically they track their movements. Say for example, something actually has happened in Shanghai and they want to catch hold of that particular person. Entire Shanghai actually town actually is replete with actually face recognition software cameras. So in Shanghai railway station, when actually 10,000 people come out of railway station, these cameras are open, I'll tell you. When horde of people are coming out, these cameras actually scan each and every one of them and point out the person, I'll tell you, who is required by you because he's an offender. By the time actually comes to the final gate, the exit gate, he's caught. Within actually 100 yards, I'll tell you, the facial recognition actually technology will identify. This is the deadly dangerous actually kind of a thing. See, it can employ methods such as geometric, photometric, and skin texture map. I'll tell you, your skin texture also it recognizes. When your facial recognition is done, it is not just actually face, because your twin brother and twin sister also can actually be mistaken for you. But this software, actually, this machine doesn't mistake, I'll tell you. Because your skin texture is different. Your geometric, actually, dimension is different with your, actually, twin brother. Therefore, you can be identity 100% without any mistake. This is the problem, actually, of the technology. Law cannot actually keep pace with this. That is what. Individual rights, you just information of privacy, which involves establishment of rules governing the collection and handling of personal data, such as credit information and medical records. So, these days what they do, data entry actually is outsourced to somebody. Data entry. For example, if you buy a site, you go to sub-registrar office to register it. And who are the people actually who collect all the information from you? Some data entry operators. They are hired actually on a daily basis or on a monthly basis. They only data. These people collect actually every day hundreds and hundreds of people's actually all property records, your personal records, etc. If they mind, I'll tell you, they can steal this information and sell it to somebody. That is how I'll tell you many times the properties actually which have been sold by the government, false documents are created and sold by some people to somebody else. So this is how I'll tell you, this collection of information, storing of the information, especially the medical records. Deadly, I'll tell you, medical records are very, very sacred. The hospital should actually have an extra care not to see that actually the records are hacked and information stolen because of your privacy. So bodily privacy. Imagine, I'll tell you, which concerns about protection of your physical selves against invasive procedures, such as drug testing, cavity searches, etc. Say, for example, to which drug you are actually allergic, etc. So, for example, an enemy is waiting to eliminate a person. He hacks into medical records, finds out actually this particular actually chemical is allergic to it. So wherever he goes actually for eating, drinking, etc., if that chemical is mixed and given, I'll tell you, he dies. Nobody can actually trace it that actually has been poisoned to death. Without being caught, actually can do it. Cavity searches, I'll tell you. See, it's deadly dangerous. Earlier, few years ago in UK, they had a policy that there used to be virginity test actually in Heathrow Airport. Any person actually from any other country entering UK a woman must actually subject herself actually for virginity test. If she's a virgin, she would be allowed. If she's not a virgin and not a citizen of this country, she will not be. Look, virginity test, how will they be conducted? Invasive procedure. You will be taken to your room and every body part actually will be invaded and found out whether actually you're a virgin or not. Don't you think actually it is something actually of a privacy invasion? No, till 2013, I'll tell you, the rape victims, after Nirbhaya case in 2012 Delhi, where the Nirbhaya actually was mercilessly raped by 6 people and tortured actually by all those people, and actually she was killed. After that, we changed the law, and there we changed certain of the provisions. Earlier to 2012, if a rape victim, if a girl has been raped, so a doctor could be a male doctor, and a male doctor actually would thoroughly, in fact, actually examine the female body by inserting actually his instruments in his fingers to all, and actually ultimately he would say this girl actually is raped or not. Earlier, prior to that, actually there was a test called 2-finger test. A doctor actually would insert 2 of his fingers to find out whether a girl actually has been raped or not. I'll tell you, there was something so horrible. In 2013, actually, we've amended the law and say that, I'll tell you, if there has to be a medical examination of a rape victim, it has to be by a female doctor only, and no male doctor should be there. So it was, I'll tell you, it was literally, in fact, actually invasion of your privacy, physical body. Cavity searches. Now, cavity search is nothing but to find out whether you're a virgin or not, right? And privacy of communication, and that is which covers the security of the privacy of mail. So, for example, when you shoot a mail to somebody, you are sure that only that the recipient actually will receive that actual information. But there are possibilities in between anybody, because all this actual information runs actually in this information superhighway. No, billions and billions actually of information actually are going forth up and down. I'll tell you, in this super information highway, it terrific speed, I'll tell you, in billions and billions actually of bits it is traveling. And the technology is so high, I'll tell you, it will never actually, in fact, actually go in the wrong path. It reaches only the address, 100% accuracy. But when your most secret actually document is in that actually open space, there is a possibility of someone actually interfering it. That is why encrypted. Digital signature, what does it actually mean? Some of the contracts I enter into with a French firm, I'll tell you. I sit in actually in Mysore, enter into actually a contract actually in a French firm. Our agreement actually is exchanged actually in email, and final draft actually is prepared. And the final draft after signature, a digital signature, I'll tell you, must be transmitted only with a digital signature. Means this billions of worth actually dollar agreement actually has to go digitally in the super information highway, super highway. There anybody could actually manipulate, interfere, and actually what? But when you put actually a digital signature, encrypted message, I'll tell you, nobody can actually access it. But many times, actually, many people without knowing it, they do it, and they get actually what invaded, and they lose actually the information. Territorial information, privacy, which concern the setting of limits on intrusion into the domestic and other environment, such as workplace, public space, etc. See, I'll tell you, when someone actually is actually making a program actually maybe in YouTube or something like that, and this man actually is open to actually to access to other people to do it. And if it is actually very private issue, you cannot actually hold it. If it is something actually violative of law, you can actually file a case against this person. This man actually has transmitted this kind of an information. Live streaming he has done actually something which is defamatory. If it is within the country, no problem. Our Indian actually law enforcement agency will go and arrest people. What about actually from Singapore or from other land? They actually stream all this actually nonsense which they do not want. I'll tell you one very interesting case. Let me not actually tell his name, one of the very top actually advocates of Delhi, who also belongs to one of the very important leading political parties. He's a very, very famous Supreme Court actually advocate. Once what he did was, he came back to his office. He had a kind of an affair actually with one of his colleagues, right? When only these two people actually were in the office, they were in a compromising position, right? One of his drivers actually had hidden a camera there, and the camera captured all their actually private actually the movements and the transaction, and gave it to some agency from Singapore. Actually, they live streamed from Singapore. So the lawyer, the famous actually world famous lawyer actually could not do anything because the transmitting center actually was not within the territorial limits of India. And he was actually sent out of the party. He was shamed. Imagine, I'll tell you, a very leading advocate actually, when it comes to the office tomorrow to the court, people look at him because actually he was having an affair actually openly, which was actually been captured and live streamed, I'll tell you, with his colleague in his office, is something like that. So I'll tell you, and there is nothing wrong in it. When the woman actually agrees, you have every right to, in fact, actually have an affair. I'll tell you, it is none of anybody's business, except actually the wife of the lawyer. No other person actually has any business. If the wife also doesn't mind, I'll tell you, it is nobody's business. But I'll tell you, is it an ethical issue? No. It's your private affair, no doubt. But when the private affair actually becomes a public actually a demo, it causes plenty of actually heartburn. So this exactly, that is why we need actually territorial privacy. So now actually we are making law. That is why if you really want to make any kind of a law on digital actually revolution, it has to be actually on universal basis. You can't actually make one wonderful law in America, say it is a wonderful law. No, I'll tell you, because what actually should happen in America to be punished could happen elsewhere and bring the same impact actually on Americans. So there has to be some kind of a universal actually approach to it. That is the problem of this one. And we have actually in 1948 itself actually, to protect privacy, Universal Declaration actually of Human Rights actually we made it. As a consequence of which, I'll tell you, We have this actually Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which actually says, look, these are actually the rights, human rights. Nobody should violate. No one should be subjected to arbitrary interference actually with his privacy, family, home, correspondence, not to attack on his honor or reputation. Nothing should be done, right? So we have in this country what is actually known as a defamation actually law. You must have heard, defamation law. But in India, defamation law is very, very weak. Hardly anybody actually is punished, nor anybody actually is asked to pay any compensation. Unlike in the West, I'll tell you, huge money actually will be imposed as compensation, right? So the no interference actually by public authorities. So the government also will not interfere. Government also will not interfere unless and until actually it affects actually its function. For the following reasons, I'll tell you, government actually can interfere actually with your privacy. Following reasons only. One is national security, right? If something actually what you're doing runs against national interest, it can actually invade your privacy. Suddenly it can do it. And for public safety, I'll tell you, if anything that you do affects public and to protect actually interests of the public, we can certainly interfere actually with them. And thirdly, economic well-being of the country. Now Bitcoins have come. I'll tell you, cryptocurrency. It's a kind of, I'll tell you, legal exchange. Many people do not know under what it is. And here I'll tell you, you can invest, make money, and nobody can actually ask actually for the accountability. So plenty of actually people are, cryptocurrency is nothing but actually in a concept they float with certain denominations. You buy that. And when you buy that actually by paying hard currency, so that concept actually will have some kind of a value. And it keeps changing, If it goes up, I'll tell you, automatically for $100 that you bought, it might become actually $200. It's a very thing. So this is something I'll tell you very, very difficult because it is done on an international basis. And you are avoiding tax, you're not paying tax to your own country. So if you really want to control, you can't control them, I'll tell you, because your economy will be in ruins. If you don't control and regulate it, you'll be losing actually plenty of actually money on this. And for the prevention of disorder or crime, look what's happening. This, especially country like India, it's a country of actually multiculturalism. Here what happens is, some stupid fellow actually on a Facebook actually writes some nonsense actually on religion. And in the entire country, people actually read that actually comment, become very angry. They start burning and actually destroying public property. So one stupid fellow, without actually knowing the consequences, does something, the reaction actually will be, earlier actually this problem wasn't there, I'll tell you, where you are not allowed to, in fact, actually post any nonsense that you wanted because there was no technology, you didn't. For example, once upon a time where there was only newspaper, even if you want to, in fact, actually write a letter, the article you want to publish actually in a paper, that would have been actually vetted properly. Only then subsequently it would have been punished. Only responsible actually comments used to come to the public forum. But I'll tell you, any idiot, I told you, nearly 2,000 actually million people actually are there in Facebook. And any person actually can write any nonsense. And people can react to it. So I'll tell you, major problem actually is health and actually moral issues they commit. And protection of rights of freedom of others. Many times they invade your actually freedom. So for example, if you are, say for example, a person actually with some power, political power or social status, or a celebrity, your privacy is dead and gone. If you are a celebrity, you can't go anywhere. You can't even take actually a small child of yours for an ice cream. There will be 10 photographers standing and taking your daughter's photograph, and tomorrow post. I'll tell you, the child actually gets terribly upset because, you can't simply expose actually all these people and all these things. And many people like it. That is why they become celebrities. Look at actually our cricket stars. Whatever they do, I'll tell you, tomorrow there will be something. If Virat Kohli wants to comment actually on Facebook, for each comment he charges some money. Huge money. Only when that money is given, he will actually write a comment there. In Twitter or something like that. one nonsensical statement, I'll tell you, he earns actually millions and millions of rupees. And we are there now, we idiot people to read and understand and recommend and all that, do all that. See, this is the picture that we are living in, which cannot be regulated actually by the thing. Technology, see, look here, identity cards. See, till recently, till Aadhaar came, what was your identity as an Indian? What was your identity? How, what did you show to show that? Prove that you are an Indian. You look, you look like an Indian, and many people believed that in Indian. You had one actually driving license, a passport. That is why you are an Indian, they said. At last, we now we have one actually Aadhaar card, which shows actually the ultimate ID card of yours. If you have that, categorically we can say you are an Indian citizen, right? Because you're actually no, all your actually information is collected and you have been given a right. So many times actually this information is misused. Your race actually is made known, your caste is made known, your political ideologies, you can actually find it out, and your religion actually is made known. When all this information actually goes public, people will start using this information. And threat of insurgents, religious discrimination, political extremism has been all too common as motivation for the establishment of ID system. So the ID system, I'll tell you, is introduced to find out who is he, what does he do, whether he can be a dangerous to our country or something like that. In Pakistan, the ID cards actually were made only to enforce quota system. And with the advent of magnetic stripes, I'll tell you, microprocessor actually, before, just like you are actually, toll that you pay, FASTag, by the time you reach actually the toll, your money is deducted. You are allowed to go. Right? Like that, before you come out of the airport or railway station, someone will be waiting for you to be arrested because your information actually has already been reached. These are all private issues, I'll tell you, are doing it. So we still actually, data protection actually is not fully protect actually system in India, means our law actually is not developed. Sensitive personal information, I'll tell you, like passwords, financial information, physical and physiological, mental health, etc., sexual orientation, medical records, biometric information, all of them, I'll tell you, will be compromised. So that is why we have our Information Technology Act, which to certain extent actually takes care of all these things, to certain extent only, I don't say. And we have been actually making plenty of actually, in fact, rules. So all electronic contracts must be made through that. Legal recognition of digital signature. If you want a digital signature, it has to be recognized. Similarly, security measures for electronic records, procedure for appointment of adjudicating officers, provision for establishing a cyber regulatory body, and an appeal against order, all these things like, digital signature, provision for appointment of controller of certifying authority. And act also applies for offenses and contraventions committed outside India. And senior police officers, others may enter into any establishment and try to get the information. And cyber regulatory authorities. So our Information Technology Act, to certain extent, I'll tell you, try to regulate actually the abuse actually of information technology arena, or the domain. But law, I'll tell you, as a teacher of law, we cannot actually keep pace actually with the development. Chat GPT is there, 4 now. Chat GPT actually will be there, 5 will be there actually in another 6-7 months. This is 100 times better than any of our software here. And when artificial intelligence and quantum computing come together, I'll tell you, in another like 15 years time, the man actually will not be able to invent any new thing, because every invention actually will be made by the computers, right? With this, I think I should actually stop, so that actually, if you have any questions, you can ask, right? I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Stop my presentation, whatever, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲ್ವಲ್ಲ.
Presentation.
Miss, over. You can share that presentation with them, correct?
Yes.
Yes, please do it. Ask them if they have any kind of a question, they can ask me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can close.